But at the end of the day, we seek to prevent large problems from happening anywhere in a large global enterprise. At JP Morgan, I was working on the next generation risk blueprint, which is all about how to prevent these things from happening. Bad business practice, such as money laundering, road trading, and massive computer failures, anything you could imagine would go wrong. I had a lot of leeway consulting as a senior risk architect to think out of the box and actually get my ideas implemented. I was funded out of a strategic fund, I reported to the directors, and I was pretty happy. JP Morgan thought very highly of me, and they were thinking of funding, in conjunction with my project in DC, the next generation risk software. What I needed to do what I did was a really smart piece of software, really, really smart. Its job would be to think about all the information, and this is where you may connect a dot. The job of this software would be to think about all the information that represented what was going on in the enterprise at any given time as bank business was being transacted worldwide. For example, it would be a surveillance software that would look for trading patterns that indicated someone was up to no good, and then do something about it. Send a message somewhere, send the transaction information somewhere, perhaps shut their system down, perhaps shut another system down, perhaps start something else up elsewhere. This kind of capability is very, very essential in today's world. However, this kind of software is not found in Microsoft or not even in IBM. A small group of very esoteric software companies make this kind of enterprise software, and it is very pricey. So you can't afford to pick wrong. And I asked all my colleagues who are industry gurus what would they recommend for this. My buddies recommended P-TECH. And my buddies in JP Morgan were also evaluating P-TECH. And why not P-TECH? What you see on the screen is a very prestigious list of P-TECH's client. P-TECH is a very small software company located in Quincy, Massachusetts. They put out this kind of software product that I was talking about, and it has an artificial intelligence core. P-TECH assured me that they had something called clearances, so I figured there'd be no problem getting them cleared to come into JP Morgan Chase to evaluate our very confidential risk plans for the future, how we would stop money laundering in the future, for instance. IBM told me that they were planning on making P-TECH a special global partner. With IBM standing next to the small vendor P-TECH, I was pretty excited that I was on the right track. There was no problem getting P-TECH cleared through security to come visit and talk serious business. They were with me for 20 minutes before I suspected something was not right. So I called my colleagues. They told me to talk to ex-P-TECH and P-TECH employees right away, but they told me something even more ominous. They said, do not let them out of your sight, and don't let them take anything from the bank. So, with P-TECH people standing still feet away from me, they told me a hair-raising story of P-TECH's myriad connections to terrorism. First, the person you see in this picture, who was placed on the U.S. terror list in October 2001. His name is Yasin Qadi, a Saudi businessman. It's the one the arrow is pointing towards. I thought these people were kidding, or they were setting up a play for P-TECH's business with JP Morgan. I insisted on proof and documentation. I went to 2 states to collect it, including this and other pictures. I also spoke with the Boston FBI, where they said they had reported this 9 months earlier, just weeks after the attack. This was the end of May 2002. At the very same time, I am discovering this about P-TECH because their meeting with me and JP Morgan Chase was at the ending of May. At the very same time, on May 30th, 2002, Agent Robert Wright of the Chicago FBI at a congressional hearing appeared on the steps of the Capitol and burst into tears apologizing to the 9/11 families, stating his investigation into terrorism financing had been repeatedly shut down, and he had been censured for pushing it. Actually, his investigation was exactly into Yasin Qadi, whom he called bin Laden's banker. Wright's investigation was shut down in the late 90s. He stated if he had been able to continue and shut down the funding to al-Qaeda, 9/11 may not have happened. His original quote was, "It would not have happened." When you show up to work within line of sight of Ground Zero and shake hands with some group the FBI agents said had financed it, what exactly is the playbook? And there was more, like the Ginsu knife commercial. For me, something big had fallen into my lap. I had to make some decisions. Agent Wright said his investigation into the founders and financiers of PTEC and their financing shell, something called BMI, was also shut down. BMI stands for, I'm sorry, go back here. Oh, sorry. And now you see, you think I'm a technology expert. Well, BMI, which is in the first column, stands for Baitul Mal, which later turned out to be a front for Hamas and al-Qaeda. Little interesting point here, Governor Kane did a $24 million land deal with a sub of BMI, 3% of which of the commission went back to BMI, and around the same time some of his New Jersey citizens were being blown up in Israel by Hamas. I do not say that allegedly because this has been reported in a Department of Treasury report which happened to fall into my hands. The people who started BMI were exactly the same who started PTEC, and in fact the chief scientist was the one I shook hands with when they came down to J.P. Morgan Chase. In fact, he was the one who made me suspicious based on some behavior that he was exhibiting at J.P. Morgan. In addition, there were references to a recent raid in Herndon, Virginia, a key target of which was Yaqub Mirza and his many organizations that were accused of being terror charity fronts to al-Qaeda. Yaqub Mirza was on the board of PTEC. I demanded proof of that and got it. So far, we're up to 3 names, but wait, there's more. I went down to meet a group of the PTEC and ex-PTEC employees in Virginia. I wanted to see them face to face and have them tell me this horrific story to my face and have them write down in their own hands what they were telling me and to provide documentation. And they did. I asked the Boston